Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the manufacturing here in the United States has reached a plateau. At least that's what the article headline says, something of that nature. I'll leave a link down in the description for you guys. Now, this is something that I pretty much had predicted back when everybody was all like real excited about manufacturing coming back to America, and there was all this media attention to it and the political efforts that they were going to undertake as far as being able to bring back this manufacturing base to America or reestablish manufacturers here. Sounds all a little great. Like, all that sounds so good. And I don't doubt how wonderful the theories are and the opinions that a lot of people have and how valid they are, right? I mean, I'm not trying to knock any of that stuff. It all makes a lot of sense. But really, when you look at it from the economic forces that have been at play for hundreds of years, talking about the Cantillon effect, then you would really understand a lot clearer that the manufacturing coming back to the United States is not going to take place. I mean, you can do some stuff that will show and bring an appearance of some manufacturing coming back, but for the most part, it's not going to take place. Not without continual government injections of like subsidies or tariffs or something of that nature. There's no way that the United States is going to compete on a grand scale when it comes to the competition that is provided by the globe. Like, the United States can do some stuff. There's a lot of things that we do manufacture here that is of high quality that really nobody else does. Or fewer people do. And the stuff that is made outside the United States a lot of times is inferior products. I mean, this is what gives the United States a lot of advantage, is that the stuff that we do build is really good quality stuff. But really, when you think about this from the Cantillon, effect kind of theory, then you would know that the manufacturing isn't going to happen. In fact, it's going to get worse. More manufacturing is eventually going to leave the United States, and when the new money turns off, we're all going to fall into poverty. So I thought I would explain a little bit what is happening here, because if you think about it, if you go back to when the United States was a manufacturing powerhouse, the United States manufactured a lot of stuff. We had the best ideas, the best equipment, the best factories, all the best material. And really, if you think about like what was taking place in the United States prior to this really boom in manufacturing, this industrial revolution, is that we had a lot of people immigrate to the United States. And all this massive ideas that people brought from their homes, their farms, and wherever it was that they were living, had brought so many grand ideas, good ideas, that the United States had no choice but to explode with the industry expanse that it had. It was going to take place. I mean, these people had the opportunity to do it, and everything here was provided. Like, the United States has a huge abundance of natural resources and ability to just foster this kind of thing happening. So when the United States became a manufacturing powerhouse and the Industrial Revolution had us producing all the world's best stuff and distributing that stuff to the world was sending us their money. Now think about that for just a minute. We were producing stuff and selling it to the rest of the world, and they were sending us their money. We were working hard. We were producers and savers. Now, you think about being a producer saver today. People who have money in their accounts, people who invest their money, people who are not sitting in debt, people who are actively pursuing business and stuff. Those are the producers out there, right? And they always seem to be doing pretty well for themselves when they're actively pursuing that production or business or investment or something of that nature. Right? But when you find people who have fallen into debt, and all they do is search out more debt or more ways to maybe finance again the future, right? These are the people who end up suffering the most when all of a sudden they can no longer get the financing, right? That's when the new money turns off. Producers, savers, right? Spenders who go into debt. Debtors and spenders. Right? And this is really the way you kind of look at two different ways of the economy and the people who operate within it. So when the United States was that manufacturing powerhouse producing all this wonderful stuff and selling it off to the rest of the world, and they were sending us their money, we were able to increase our standard of living in a way that really nobody else around the world had the opportunity to do. And so as we were increasing our standard of living, we were really enjoying the new luxuries that came from being a producer saver. We started buying houses and cars and had the ability for one income to provide enough for the entire household, for all the food and energy and vacations and college and all the other stuff that goes along with it. One income could provide enough to do all that. It's pretty amazing to think about, but it's also makes a lot of sense when you think about how much of a producing saving nation we were at the time. So now as we move through this and we get into the point now where the idea of producing really isn't a viable choice. We are a consuming nation, meaning that we have to go ever increasing deeper into debt in order to acquire the things that we need just to maintain our standard of living. And everybody wants to increase their standard of living. Nobody wants to decrease it. So as the arguments and political polls start to take place on what it is that needs to be done, ultimately what needs to happen is that you need to go deeper into debt so that you can maintain your standard of living. It's sad to think. See, this is one of the things that I really am focused in on when it comes to understanding what it is you need to do in order to get your money outside of the system, right? This is gold, this is Bitcoin, this is the provisions that you have, the physical things, right? The skills that would be needed during times of, chaos and crisis. The ability to having canning equipments, literally the ability to preserve food is probably one of the greatest skills that any individual can have. You can stack up all kinds of food. It can get stolen from you, burn up in a fire. Maybe you won't be able to transport it, but being able to preserve food, that's a skill that is, in my opinion, probably one of the top things that a prepper could learn, right? Is how to preserve food. It was funny. I don't even know how I got off on this little tangent on this video. I wasn't even really planning on going that far. But when we think about this Cantillon effect and what has taken place, when the new money turns off, this is when everybody falls into poverty, because there was a time when we were manufacturers. We're not a manufacturer. If you were to turn off the new money, if the debt was not to be issued any longer, then what we would have is we would have a lot of people losing their standard of living. We would see that separation between the rich and the poor grow ever increasingly more, and we would see the bottom half suffering a lot. And now I'm not in favor of any of this system, and I'm not trying to defend it, because a lot of people say that I'm a shill for the Fed, and I just laugh at that. We were talking about this in the last video. But this is ultimately what will happen, because not enough people truly understand what has taken place within this, and that they are really walking a very fine edge, right? A very fine line between ultimate chaos and crisis and being able to maintain a standard of living for people. But the more they go into this, the more it separates the rich and the poor. And this is one of the reasons why you're going to see the homeless grow. You're going to see one of the reasons why you're seeing it very difficult for, the inventory of homes to come onto the market so that people can afford them. The idea of you'll own nothing and be happy. I mean, it's taking place right now. You can really see it. All right. Uneducated economist, lunchtime babbling. You guys let me know.